Hi, my name is Misty Gunn on Instagram as well as Teachers Pay Teachers. And for today's video, we'll be breaking down the standard 1.OA.1, which is I can use addition and subtraction to solve word problems within 20. Now, before we get into this breakdown, there's some things you need to know about this skill. So one thing is that it is a word problem skill, but the learners are not required to be fluent at reading, and they're not even expected to read the problems on their own. It's very important that you support them with reading or read to them, because they're already comprehending what's happening in the problem and then they're solving. Fluency is not another expectation when you're tracking mastery of this skill. So it's very important not to throw that on them. But I do agree that you should integrate reading whenever you can, but just not when you're trying to master this skill or check for mastery. The next thing is to review key terms with your learner that will help them determine if they need to add or subtract. Now that we got that out the way, I'm going to tell you how I end up teaching it to, or introduce this standard to my learners. The first thing I do is always tell them about the progression scale, and I teach it on a 3-level scale. The first level is add to and take from problems. So these problems are the most basic form, and I'll put an example on the screen. All of the word problems used in this video come from my first grade word problems digital math activity, which can be found in my Teachers Pay Teachers store. This level 1 problem says 2 dogs and 5 more dogs. And with these problems, you're just given the basic information of what's going on. The example that we have is some dogs. We know how many dogs are there, and we know that some more dogs came. So all the learner has to do is put those two numbers together because they know the key term. And it's important to stress that they know key terms. So that's why that's the most basic. It doesn't require a lot of comprehension, and they know exactly what they need to do with those numbers. And the subtraction method is very similar. The words that might be used would be go away or went away. For level 2, it gets a little bit more complex, and I'll put an example on the screen. Our level 2 example says there are 5 red balls and 4 yellow balls. How many balls are there all together? For the level 2, the learner is working with putting together and taking apart problems. Now, as you can see from the example, the learner is given a group of something which is divided into 2 categories. So it's one object, and our example is balls, but we know that there is this amount of balls and then another amount of balls. It's dividing into 2 categories, and the learner has to put those numbers together. Now, the subtraction part of it would be the learner being told that there's a group of balls, and then some of them are blue, and then this certain amount are pink. So the learner would have to then work through it like it's a mystery problem or a story and figure out what is that missing number and try and subtract, and using whatever strategy is best for them. Now, level 3 is way more complex. Level 3 is comparing an unknown number problems. So I'm going to focus more on the comparing problems because I feel those are a little bit more complex and confusing than the unknown numbers. And here's an example of what it looks like. Our level 3 example of comparing word problems says Mac has 8 toys, Sam has 5 toys. How many more toys does Mac have than Sam? As you can see for the comparing problems, the learner is given information about 2 things. It could be people, animals, or objects. And they're expected to remember the information about item 1 or person 1, as well as the information about item 2 or person 2. And then they have to compare and see, oh, is there more for this person or is there less for this person? And also, what's the difference between the 2? So it can be very confusing for them. And a way to help them with this is having them draw or write down the information that they hear for each person or object. So that way they don't get as confused when they're trying to get through their work. And in first grade and kindergarten, we're definitely a little bit more tactile, so it's really good for them to use manipulatives or drawings or whatever would be helpful to them when solving these problems. Now, I really hope this video was helpful and gave you a lot of information and helps you feel a little bit more confident with tackling word problems with your learner. Thank you so much for supporting. Thank you so much for watching, and be sure to check out my Teachers Pay Teachers store for resources that can help you support your learner.